And that should do it. Welcome back, fellow hobby enjoyers. We'll be painting more orc skin on this Quiet with Big Shooter commando. Then we'll be working on the skin for a fair bit, so I won't take out any other colors. Okay, let's get everything set up. Seems like today's advent calendar was a Admech detachment, so we'll take a little break and review that a little later on. Okay, I still have some primer on the palette, and there are some areas which could use that. Cork tends to suck up and absorb paint pretty greedily, so I want to make sure they're well saturated with the black primer, because I don't want any cork colors showing through when we're all said and done. And if I recall, there was a few spots on this orc that were missing primer. Yeah, right here. This pouch, that's one. You know, these spots were likely hit, but because it was so watered down, the primer probably didn't stay at the peaks of these spikes. Okay, so let's continue in with the Horus Green, Sons of Horus Green that is, and the Ogre and Camo blend. Alrighty, so we'll go in with a tighter brush next. Try and increase the brightness on the arms. I'd like to work on all areas kind of at the same time. Build them up uniformly. I feel that is the right approach. So like, you know, on the shelf of the butt here, that's going to be probably a max bright spot. Shoulders, fingers. Pollux G. Hello there. Welcome to the stream. What's on your hobby desk this evening? Look at this. She's got little fangs. I forgot about that. Not fangs, tusks, or lower teeth? I guess you'd call those tusks, right? Francois, welcome. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? I'm trying to... So I have it might be a bit of an ambitious goal here, but I'd like to try and not make this... paint this orc's face in such a way so that she's no longer a butterface. So we're going to try and enhance the appeal a little bit. Pollux G says a little bit of rewriting army lists right now. One of them is yours, actually. Oh, mine. One of the thematic lists. They probably need rewrites, given that points change so often. I mean, not so often, right? Just, it's inevitable. You know, given enough time, a thematic list is no longer battle ready or legal for play. Unfortunately. It does kind of hurt the longevity of those videos quite a bit. Beyond the theme, right? Beyond the, like, the theme lasts forever, but most people don't prioritize the theme. And the people I think who like thematic list builds like that it's thematic, but also that it's viable at the time. Francois says, lol, I was just on a stream, answered another viewer's comment, and then was silenced from chat for 24 hours and had words shoved in my mouth. It was rather hilarious, and I'm gonna have to go leave. Sounds awkward. Got yourself in a bit of trouble there, Francois? I guess some content creators might be a bit more strict with their, I don't know, what chatters say. Oh, Francois says, I'm going to have to go leave a comment later on the restream upload. Right. Pollux G says, yeah, the Alpha Legion one got a little bit weird. I also left out the Legends tanks. Trying to future-proof some things I haven't purchased yet. Oh yes, that is a challenge. Future-proofing for 40k is, like, there are some safe choices, right? There are some safe choices. Lieutenant Titus, who seems stupid, not stupid good, but quite, maybe suspiciously good is the way to phrase it. Lieutenant Titus is surely, I think, not a safe long-term choice. I think the best way to future-proof your stuff, really, in an ideal world, would be to have a play group that would be accommodating of things that are no longer supported by GW. A community that would be empathetic to the, you know, the labor of love you've taken and monetary purchases you've made to realize something special for yourself and for the community. Pollux G says, did you say something like Erebus did nothing wrong? That's a pretty funny assumption there. That amuses me, Pollux. Francois says, no, the question was besides Femstodes, what what's a hot topic that gets people upset about Warhammer? Obviously, any answer is bound to upset someone. It's not given as an answer to troll anyone, though. Yeah, most certainly, Francois. I would never assume you were intentionally trying to, like, upset individuals. But people tend to read things, especially, like, when it comes to text, they read it in their own voice, right? And then that is how miscommunications happen most of the time. People kind of assuming intent or whatever. Emojis can help, but only to a point. Only to a point. Pyro says, hello there. Hello to you too, Pyro. Welcome to the stream. Omegon's twin, I am chronically late. Omegon's twin. Supposed to be the first Primarch found, and then now look at you. Always late. But look, I think better late than never, okay? I appreciate your attendance, your participation in these streams. Omegon's twin asks, when is my Death Watch coming back? I don't know, sometime during this Advent calendar lead up to Christmas. You'll get your Death Watch detachment. Hopefully it's serviceable. Hopefully it's tasteful, right? Pollux G says, yeah, I think I will cut the Vanguard vets from my Blood Angels list. I have a feeling they will get banished to the warp soon. Yes, probably. But you know what? I think you'll get Vanguard vets just as Primaris. I think, just like with Sternguard, I think the same thing will happen. Right? You might lose a bit of war gear options, but I don't know. Like if, hypothetically, if I was playing against your Firstborn Vanguard veterans that were lovingly crafted, you put hours into painting them and maybe kit bashing them and whatever else, right? And then GW does what they do, and now you have Primaris, not Primaris, or, you know, modernized Vanguard veterans that are on the same bases. I would say, hey man, just use, I'm cool with you using the old models. Now, if it's a personal preference for aesthetics, then, you know, go nuts. The Crafter Plays Shorts. Welcome to the stream. The Crafter Plays Shorts says, hello, I'm very new to 40k and I watched your video on the Death Guard army list. The video was very helpful and I'm having a blast with the Death Guard. You deserve the sub. Oh, thank you kindly. Crafter Plays. I appreciate that. You know, I think this new Death Guard detachment is probably fairly conducive to a meme-themey thematic list build, because it's so infantry focused. But it does overlap with the themes of a previous Death Guard thematic list build I've done. So that always makes me question whether or not I should just revisit the same theme. Is that worth? I've kind of done that with the Raven Guard, though, to be fair. Pyro says, strange. The add-on to bring dislikes back isn't working. Oh my god, is there a battle on the back end of YouTube between the extension for disliking videos and, or for showing the dislikes? That's what it is, right? Because you can still dislike. You just don't get to know. Which is super lame. I hate that. I hate that. Like, how... Like, if I'm trying to think of a tutorial that isn't... well, I mean, even Warhammer is a good example. Like, what if I'm new to Warhammer and I'm looking up, oh, how to put together this model or how to go about this basing process? You know, having the dislikes visible gives me at a glance kind of like a measure with regards to how helpful this video is, right? Do people generally approve of the method that this person in the video is laying out? I don't know. And Warhammer is like hobby stuff. What if you're doing something serious or something more substantive, right? Like what if you're trying to do some housework with like, you know, how to unclog your drain, right? Then you got someone making a crazy video like, put a firecracker down there, right? I wouldn't know at a glance, right? I have to go into the comments and figure it out. Pyro says, also, how do you feel about the new Warsmith at What the 40K? I saw the Warsmith. I saw him. Maybe we'll take a look at him now. We'll postpone our detachment review. Let me switch this over. There we go. Yeah, so this is the new Warsmith. Okay, look. I love that the Iron Hands are getting some attention. Right? Even, like, it's 30k, but look, you use it in 40k, whatever. Still nice. It's still a thematic win for Iron Warriors. Excuse the slip there. But okay, Iron Warriors with servo arms grafted on, like Tech Marines and Warpsmiths, is cool. I don't particularly love how it's mounted here, but it's fine. The hammer's a bit large for my taste. I think a smaller hammer would be a bit more in line with the Horus Heresy aesthetics, but I wonder if... Oh, you can't see my cursor here, eh? Is there a way I can do that? Oh, wait, I can. Hold on. Wait, what happened? What happened? There it is, okay. Right, so I think the proportions they're going for is like the Axe of the Omnissiah, the Tech Marines Forge Axe. I think they're going for that kind of taller hammerhead. I like that it seems to be a rocket-propelled hammer. That's pretty cool. A bit orky, if it is, but I don't hate it. It's got two poses. Look at that. Look at that. That's weird. So is there two bottom handles? There must be two handles and the same axe head probably, or hammerhead. Look, it's a thematic win. The Iron Warriors players, like, you can have some solace in that. Like, you got a unit, and it's all done up in your heraldry with your little insignias, and you know, I don't hate it. Kind of like that Space Wolf priest we saw earlier. Oh yeah, it's right there. It's right there. Francois says dislikes count just as much as likes to drive the algorithm. All of it is engagement. If you truly dislike something, don't dislike, don't leave a comment. That is true. That is true. But, to my point earlier, if I'm looking for a how-to video, I find it reassuring if it's like there's a good like to dislike ratio. Pollux G says Rocket Hammer, so he's 40k Reinhardt. Probably. 30k Reinhardt, but like you could use him in 40k. Pyro says, out with the 40k, the two-handed hammer pose is a Warhammer Worlds model. It would only be sold at Warhammer World. Oh, that's a bummer. Well, I'm glad you clarified, because I just perused. I just perused the pretty models. I mean, I think there's enough cool stuff at Warhammer World to just justify it. But maybe they want local people to have more of an incentive to stop by. Omegon's twin says, at Francois got Astaroth for my Lamenter's gonna paint his wings pink. Wow. That is a bold choice there. That is a bold choice there, Omegon's twin. Probably should paint the other side of her face, huh? Looking a little bit of a Two-Face here. We can't have that. Omegon's twin says, at what the 40k, why they keep giving me these unimportant detachments? Give me my Deathwatch back already. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why. They framed that was coming to everybody, or to Deathwatch players, as a kind of recompense for the egregious sin, which was the Inquisition Codex and loss of the Deathwatch Index. Which they didn't have to. You didn't have to tie those two together. You could have just had an Inquisition Codex and had the Deathwatch Index remain. Very weird, but it is what it is. It might be fun to blend in some red or like I guess a pink kind of hue, the way GW does with their orc skin tones. Especially on things like ears. I can't help but laugh at Francois's comment. The Dark Angel Detachment gives you hope for Blood Angels. The Dark Angels Detachment is a neat idea. I don't know, maybe there's... Look, it's more than possible that these competitive... these pro players, let's say, will find the sauce within, right? But it seems lacking on initial review. I like the heroic intervention. I think that's super cool. It's just 2 CP is very expensive. But that's a super potent exception. It might be worth it. I have some purple on the palette. I wonder if I can mix some of that in. It's barely alive, though. You know what I'd like to find, guys? I'd like to find a template for Genestealer Cult color schemes, the way you would find for Astartes. You know, you color it in the way you like a little dossier, like a little schematic. I mean, if nothing exists, I suppose I could make one. I'll just put it out there. Put it out there into the ether. I quite like that Astartes one, where it has all the different helmets for your Force Org, okay, well, it's more like seniority, but it has your Force Org slots too, so you can define all of those elements. XG says, let me have hope. Funny. Omegon's twin says, Gadies and gentlemen, I must go. Have a good night. Well, thanks for stopping by, Omegon's twin. You have yourself a good evening. Best of luck with your Astaroth and his pink wings. Mixing this purple into the Sons of Horus green might be a good hue blend, a nice hue to blend to with regards to those scarred areas. It's a little difficult to tell if I've painted in the entire surface of the eye or not. That looks a bit more even now. And then we'll see how many attempts it takes to paint in those eyes without it looking like she has a problem. Francois says the way GW is going, I wouldn't be surprised if the Space Wolf Detachment was... Jesus. Furries with butt plug tails and ears get +1 to hit and +1 to wound. +2 if cyberwolves are modeled with buttholes. Not... That's a little disingenuous, I think, Francois. It's not that bad. I suppose a Space Wolves detachment would probably be something mounted, but for their units. Maybe to pull them off of using the Storm Lance detachment. But then again, you know, just like with the Thousand Suns, you could just have another detachment with offering a different take on the same theme, right? Doing deeds and creating sagas and all that. Francois says it's not that bad yet. Touche. You know what I'm really hoping for? Like the Tyranids hope. You know, the Eldritch Horror or the Tunneling Horrors detachments were much more of a long shot. But what I think is a prime opportunity it would be for the Chaos Space Marines detachment to actually offer a Word Bearers detachment. I think that would be super. That's what it ought to be, in my opinion. Okay, those aren't terrible. Those eyes aren't terrible. It's a start. I don't know how well it's coming across on camera. Do you see? You want to avoid the look of like, you have not seen what I have seen. But I think this might be adequate enough. Maybe I can brighten it a little bit, and then we'll just leave it there. This could just ruin everything too, so that's the... That is certainly on the table. Pyro says, I still remember when for Horse Heresy they made wolf heads and were bullied to change them. Fun times. Yep. Dude, never forget. That's, how did it make its way through the design pipeline? That's crazy to me. Oh, God. Then people were, like, memeing all over them with, you know, photoshopping those helmets everywhere. Knee pads, feet, chest plates. So funny. Of course that would happen for Space Wolves. Okay, for the tusks, I'm going to start with Rakarth Flesh. They are very, small. Alright, so I don't think that face is bad. You'll have to take my word for it that it looks better. Looks better IRL. You have to believe me. Okay, using a bit of this primer, I'll just water it down, and I wonder if I can line up her eyes a little bit. Just to bump that readability. I don't think that's bad at all. Cool! Look at that. Look at that. Like, no disasters either. I am quite pleased with how that went. Flight of Icarus says, GW, we've heard what you've been all asking for. More tanks. Everyone collective groan. Yes. Yeah, that is my kind of sense with the Horus Heresy, certainly. It's a lot of tanks. From my discussions with the Outer Circle, it seems like the game system is hurting, or players are hurting for the various unit types. And GW just keeps making tanks. Let's water down the blend here a bit. Alright, so in about 3 minutes or so, we'll take a little hobby break and I'll give that detachment a bit of a looky-loo. Alrighty, let's take a little bit of a paint break. And maybe doing so will allow me to reevaluate that face job with a little bit of a visual reset. Okay, so we're here. We're here at the Halo Screed? Hollow Screed. Battle Clade. Let me enhance. Let's see the direction. Tech priests often monitor their forces remotely, but those who lead battle clades take this intervention to an extreme, exerting even finer control over their thralls, projecting fragments of their consciousness through the noospheric battle sphere. They override the autonomy of their soldiery, and in tactical information, target coordinates and vector directives into cybernetic minds. Okay, so it's your tech priests asserting dominance over their lesser warriors, kind of similar in theme to the Tyranids detachment. But with tech priests instead of warriors, and with the noosphere instead of synapse. Let's see the approach Detachment rule is Noospheric Transference. Tech priests can override the will of their thralls and project material. Yeah, okay. In your command phase, select one or more units from your army, including units that are embarked within transports. Nice distinction. The maximum number of units you can select depends on the battle size. So Strike Force, you pick, in your average-sized game, you pick 2 units in each of your command phase. Until the start of your next command phase, those units gain the Halo Override keyword. Interesting. Then select one of the override abilities below. Until the start of your next command phase, units from your army with the Halo Override keyword have the selected override. Yeah, so you select one for those 2 units. You get +2 to move, +1 toughness, advance and charge, very nice. Models in this unit have stealth. So you have some defensive ones and 2 offensive ones, but +2 move. With regards to fighting, advance and charge is probably better. You're probably going to roll at least a 2 on your advance. But if you're just trying to move on to an objective, then you just add 2 to your move and still advance. And then if I recall the army rule, you gain assault or heavy on your ranged weapons, right? So that's a pretty cool pairing, right? I don't hate that. Pyro says, so at what the 40k, you can target a knight or a titan. Heck, maybe inquisitors. Maybe inquisitor allies. Oh, jeez. Here we go. This is why I don't like soup. Yeah, one or more units from your army. It's like, hey, inquisitor, wear this special hat. Wear this Neuralink hat and allow me to hack into your brain. Ugh, annoying. But yeah, Pyro, you're right. From a competitive mechanics and how far we can push them point of view, you're right. Absolutely right. Okay, oh my god, what the hell is this? Transoracular dyad wafers. I think. Cybernetica Datasmith only when the bear is attached to a Castellan Robots unit until the end of the battle. Models in that unit have the Doctrina Imperative ability. Nice. So now they have your army rule. And gain the Halo Override keyword always? Wow, that's... I feel like that's satisfying if you're an Admech guy and a fan of robots. That's kind of cool. Kind of cool that you can always ensure your robots are connected. Cognitive reinforcements. Well, I say that. You always ensure your robots are connected. Having access to the Doctrinas are good. Oh, wait, you cannot select them for these. But they always have the keyword for stratagem purposes, I guess. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Because this applies to everybody. Right. So they would benefit. Yes, you can give your robots more toughness. I'm not sure what their toughness is, but usually increases in toughness are beneficial. Like, defensive abilities in your command phase are not the most useful, but it's still better to have than not have. If you know the big drop is coming, right? You gotta weather the storm. Okay, cognitive reinforcement. Admech model only, excluding Cybernetica Datasmith. The Conquer Imperative, and Protect Imperative are both active for the Bearer's unit. That's interesting, too. The Bearer's unit, yeah. That feels like big money value, right? I don't dabble with Admech, really. But I feel just on the face of it, that's not bad at all. Sanctified Ordnance. Adeptus Mechanicus model only adds 6 inches to the range characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit. And each time a hazardous test is taken, you can reroll the result. Okay. What are the hazardous abusers? Would it be like a Cataphron Breacher with plasma? Would that be the abusable unit for the hazard test? It's interesting. Inloaded Lethality. Tech Priest Dominus or Manipulus. Oh, I like the Manipulus model. Super cool. Add 3 to the attacks characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons and add 1 to the damage characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons. That's, I would like that on any army, really. I don't think that's bad at all. I know Admech aren't the most fighty, but you have tools to go hard when you need to, right? Yeah, you know, even if your tech priests are less fighty than your average Space Marine equivalent character, +3 attacks and +1 damage, you're probably base damage 2, I want to say, like a master crafted weapon on a tech priest. So go 2 to 3 damage is pretty good. Okay, let's check out these stratagems. Eradication protocols. What are these? Necrons? What's going on here? In your shooting phase or fight phase, 1 Adeptus Mechanicus unit in your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight that phase. It's an offensive stratagem. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1, and if it's Halo Override, reroll a hit roll of 1. Interesting. So you got a arguably more substantive, more potent reroll here first. And if you're Halo Override, you get a little top up, a little bonus hit reroll of 1. I'm not sure what the state of the land is for Admech attack sequences. I know they're cheap for what they are, so you have quite a lot of models on the board. But as far as attack profiles go, maybe you have enough dice that, you know, you're going to roll a few 1s, very likely. You know, I don't... Not exciting. I give that an unexciting out of 10. Targeting Override, shooting phase or fight phase, again, offensive for you when you're selected. When you're selected to attack. An unmodified hit roll of 5+ scores a critical hit. There's something. There's something. Now you have a easier way to kick off all your other synergies. All of your lethals and sustains. That's good. Neural Overload in the movement, your movement phase. Wow. If your unit is Halo Override, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. Ouch. Select 1 Override ability until the start of your next command phase. That ability is active for your unit. Well, that's fun. So you can you can give your guys a bit of brain damage and have the benefits of multiple overrides, right? Let's see the designer's notes. This means that if the targeted unit already has the Halo Override keyword, it can be affected by multiple override abilities at the same time, but suffers mortal wounds to do so. Right. Or if your unit does not have the Halo Override keyword, it instead has the chosen override ability. Nice. I like the designer's note here. I appreciate that. Okay, let's shift over to the other column. Aggressive impulse, your movement phase again. Wow, a lot of movement related tools here. That's awesome. I mean, not having read them, but kind of like that. Your movement phase, one Scorpius Dune Rider. Oh, the boat. You use it before you have been selected to move. Until the end of the turn, each time an Adeptus Mechanicus unit disembarks from that model, after it's made a normal move, that unit is still eligible to declare a charge this turn. Wow! I don't hate this. Now, I don't know how fighty Admech can be, but you have your melee units. You have your Sicarian Infiltrators, right? You have your Electro Priests. Those are Admech units. So your Halo Overrides didn't do any, So that frees you up from giving that unit a advance and charge. Right? Because that does not require Halo Override keyword. So you could select a Dune Rider, give it 2 inches more to move, have it move, then they disembark, use a stratagem, and then they charge. That's that's kind of crazy. I don't know what the Admech melee potency is like for units that can go inside of transports, but it seems kind of neat. Guided Retreat. In your movement phase just after an Adeptus Mechanicus unit from your army makes a fallback move. Until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. And if it's a Halo Override unit, you can reroll Desperate Escape tests. Wow, that's an awesome stratagem. That's like, you have none of the whole package of falling back and acting. Shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. Well, that's a good quality of life stratagem, that's for sure. And Halo Override. You'd think Halo Override would allow you to... would give you both options, where without it you would have to choose either or. But they have the whole package without Halo Override, and then if you're Halo Override, you have Desperate Escapes can reroll if you're surrounded or being forced to take in a Desperate Escape test. It's good, you know. It's a powerful situational stratagem. It's a good ace to have up your sleeve. And your reactive stratagem is in the opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move. One Adeptus Mechanicus infantry unit, excluding Cataphron units from your army that is within 9 inches of the enemy unit and not within engagement range. A reactive move of D6 or 6 inches if Halo Override. Right, that makes sense. You're trying to play with the mechanic of the detachment. I like that. Yeah, reactive moves, super good. Falling back and acting freely, super good. Disembarking and still charging after a transport moves, also super good. Yeah, I don't hate this. Neural Overload gives you flexibility with your detachment subsystem, and then you have a synergistic offense booster, or if you don't have any synergies, you can use this one. You can use Eradication Protocols and just get some more rerolls if you're just desperate for efficiency, but you're not trying to key off any particular lethals or devs. Actually, this one's better for devs. Well, I guess it depends on what other effects the weapons have. Yeah, I don't hate this detachment at all. Now, I can't speak to how this scales to the existing Codex detachments. I just know people in the serious prose scene don't care much for it. Anyways, that is the end of the review section. Let us shift gears. Let us return to the hobby desk. Oh, let me catch up with what you guys were saying. Pyro says, what do you mean Knights or Titans are fluffy? For Admech, they are. An Inquisitor, any other ally, I would say not really. I don't love that. Right? Now, if you're Inquisitor, this is where it gets weird, right? Because if you spent your time to build yourself a cool, augmented cybernetic Inquisitor, then maybe it feels great, right? But if you're grabbing whatever named character Inquisitor is the potent one at the time, or an assassin or something like that, then I just roll my eyes where I'm like, okay, I see what's happening here. Avery Barrel, welcome to the stream. We just finished reviewing over those Admech detachment rules. What was it called? The Halo Screed? Halo Screed Battle Clade. Pyro says robots are T9. With that ability, they go to T10. Pretty good. Pretty good. 9 to 10 is a good breakpoint. Destroyers with the plasma are the... I'm guessing what you mentioned with regards to the hazardous question I had. Flybaker says, I just realized this could include any Imperial agents, like a squad of Grey Knight, Grey Knight Terminators or Death Watch. Yeah, that's what I mean. It gets. I don't like what soup, so to call it that, does to the game mechanics and player sensibilities and all of that. Narratively, I think I'm all for it, right? Because then it's either good or bad based on the obvious intent of what you're souping in. Okay, so... yeah, face is looking pretty good. It's a bit hard to paint the collar and the top of the shoulders there, but... maybe it won't matter once everything else is painted. You won't really notice it. Here's hoping. Then we have... torso is kind of cast in shadow, so we don't have to focus that too much. The back looks good, but I think I gotta work on the butt a bit more. Very important. Very important we get that just right, guys. Francois says, what's with the ads tonight? That's the second one. Is YouTube putting on ads by default now? What? Let me tab over to my studio view. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. How do I turn that off? Insert manually. That's what we'll do. Okay, that should do the trick. I appreciate the I appreciate you vocalizing the issue there, Francois. Yeah, since I found I could export the chat into OBS through a custom dock, I've stopped keeping the studio tab open. Yeah, if anyone happened to reply to my Gene Stealer Cult template request, I missed it. Was there any results on that? Is there a Gene Stealer Cult's scheme template, JPEG, you know, that you can kind of color in yourself? Like a digital file for Photoshop or, you know, image editors. Does that exist like it does for the Astartes? Francois says, I'm sad about the limitations in the Imperial Agents book. Yeah, Imperial Agents, well, tell me specifically what upsets you there, but yeah, that's the direction I would want Imperial Agents to be handled, honestly. But they screwed up the execution, like terribly, in my opinion. Like you could have it be that the Inquisition could be an army on its own, and it doesn't have to be a souping piece, right? It would just be an army that kind of borrows units from other ranges, which is very apt for the Inquisition, right? Flight of Icarus is, I don't know, I still like the idea of Inquisitors being able to just show up out of nowhere and immediately take command of a pre-existing force. That is certainly apt. I guess my position on the matter would be that's better suited for narrative or open play than a competitive gaming system, as GW is trying to create, it seems. But you still can have this this idea of they take command of existing forces if you're able to pull units. You know, you're playing your army as, like, the army you would be playing is an agents of the Inquisition or whatever, Imperium, and if you have the means to pull different units to your army, then you have you should be able to do what you're describing. Right? I would limit it to a degree. I had a house rules, like I didn't publish it, but I had a system of sorts, you know, in this direction written up. And I think it kind of allows for what you're saying without the weird issues you would get with Inquisitors just drastically messing around with army rules that aren't theirs. Right? That might be a bit too much Ogren camo. Francois says you can't. Francois says 3. You can't really build your own retinue. It's pre-selected models. Oh no, you have a list up further up in the chat. 1, the Death Watch equipment distribution. 2, transport choice for your Inquisitor is locked to what an attached unit can take. 3, you can't really build your own retinue. It's pre-selected models. Absolutely, that's the dream, right? I had that accounted for in my house rules pack. Just, you know, not to brag too much. But yeah, that seems like what you ought to do for an Inquisition force. You're trying to facilitate the idea that you are the Inquisitor. Your powers are effectively unlimited, right? Your authority, anyways. You should be able to create your own retinue with a pretty well, to a high degree of customizability, right? That's really what it comes down to. Francois says 4 Inquisitor options, no Terminator armor, no list of 30 guns, no power fist. Why can't I have a Corvus Blackstar filled with Navy breachers? Why can't I have my Inquisitional Chimera and some Grey Knights? Well, look, I think our skin overall is getting close to that finished standard we have on some of our other boys. Well, she's probably better painted than most of the commandos, but it has that finished quality relative to some of the finished characters. Well, it's really just Big Boss, right? What am I saying here? This is not a full-blown army. It's a kill team plus a character. You know, my gut intuition here is to really make the skin bright, because we're going to cover it up with that brown-black contrast blend. It's going to be big sad if that experiment goes poorly. You know what? The prudent thing to do would be to test it on on something else, right? Maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll do that off stream. Probably a wise decision. If it looks bad, I can always just leave a quiet skin here as is. Flight of Icarus says the generic Inquisitor's lack of weapon options and data sheet is just depressing. Absolutely. There should be a real Build-A-Bear kind of option for your Inquisitor. And you can make this argument for every base character, like the Space Marine Captain, right? Again, I'll point to Terminator Captains still can't take Thunderhammers, unless I'm mistaken. But at the time, when I was dabbling, when I built my Terminator Captain, I was like, oh yeah, I can't even take this Thunderhammer and Storm Shield. Right? It's just absurd when your top dogs in your army don't have access to the range. Sorry, when the top dogs in your army don't have access to the armory. It's like baffling narratively. It creates a bit of, yeah, you could say it creates a bit of ludonarrative dissonance. Certainly, right? The game mechanics are not in harmony with the narrative. And it takes you out of it. And the Inquisitors is like extra glaring, I think. Maybe equally glaring, you could say, but when you think of Inquisitors having, again, unlimited authority to pursue their quarries, right? You should be able to have Xenos weapons, right? You should be able to do whatever you want. It should be a real fun toolbox to build your own Inquisitor. It's like, you know what, I kind of fancy these Tau pulse carbines. I think I'll give one to my Inquisitor. That's how it ought to be. Okay, the base looks like we don't have any more cork poking through. Oh, we do actually. Well, look. You could always apply another coat of watered down primer. Pyro says, I'm still finding it weird how the Wing Prime is a special Prime, yet it could join the Tyranid Warriors, which already have a Prime. So 2 Primes are in a unit. What a weird HQ. Yes. Yeah. That is because, and it really bothered me at the time, because I was on the Gengar arc when the Tyranids Codex came out, and I was kind of disappointed in that regard. The same thing is true with Zoanthropes, right? Why the Neurothrope used to be an HQ, and now it's just a Sergeant. And the reason for that is because it comes in the box, right? It seems like GW is making leader options based off of how products are sold in our world rather than how the lore says they operate. And the distinction is like minimal, but it becomes very awkward, as you pointed out, with the Warrior Primes. Because I kind of liked having my Warrior Prime as a character, right? Felt kind of unique, kind of cool. It was neat that you could give him enhancements or whatever. Bio artifacts at the time. Same with the Neurothrope. They preserved the abilities, which is a silver lining. I just feel like a lot of times the 40k player culture is so forgiving. So content with the crumbs GW gives. I don't know. Whoops. That's my chair. I swear it's my chair arm. It is adjustable. Okay, so I guess the skin is kind of done. The tones look fairly even on the arms. So we can add a bit of a brightness to the corner of this hip here. Pyro says they could have handled datasheet bloat by having a baseline ones. A Space Marine Captain has option points to take, Terminator Armor, Gravis, Phobos, Tacticus, etc. with each other faction equivalent. Pyro says also the fact that Neurothorpe killed a squad of Marines in Space Marine 2 is funny on an HQ level, then being demoted to a sergeant. Yeah, it's fairly obvious, right? With the Neurothrope and how, like, Space Marine 2 frames it the way how Neurothropes used to be framed. These boss monsters, right? These characters. Which is... I don't know. I feel like if you set the lore and perception one way, you should keep it consistent. Not just change it because, oh, that's how the box is sold. Then you have weird, stupid inconsistencies like on the World Eater side, where you have mounted units leading infantry. Like if there's a mechanical problem with World Eaters because there's not enough units, account for that in the units themselves. Those compensations, or in the enhancements or stratagems, right? You don't muck around with like the consistency of the system you kind of establish. I think it leaves a weird taste in my mouth, that's for sure. That might be a bit too bright. Pyro says, sorry, at what the 40k, I mean points options would have to come back. Picking an armor option increases your points cost, for example, while lessening data sheet bloat. Ah, yes, that makes the sense, Pyro. It makes the sense. Yeah, with, I think GW wanted to do power level for so long that they just decided to they just decided to use power and call it points and not tell anybody that was happening. So funny. They just want easier admin, I'm convinced. It's like 40k is becoming more and more popular, more and more competitive, like the competitive scene is growing more and more, and in turn it's requiring more upkeep, and I think they're lazy. Right? And I think what supports that is how they just nerf factions across the board when particular sub-factions or detachments in 10th edition's case are abusing things specifically, right? It's like, oh, Gladius Task Force is abusing Eradicators with Marnius Calgar, let's say. Well then, we'll increase their points, and now every detachment has to suffer this points hike. And now if you were a competitive guy who was trying to make something work, you're kind of punished for it, and now it's like, oh, well, now I guess I kind of have to use Gladius, because that's what they're pointed for now. The snake eats itself, so to speak. Flight of Icarus says, my hope for World Eaters is that they're going to get a bigger second wave that'll even out the inconsistencies of the index when their codex comes out. Yeah, that's my hope as well, Flight of Icarus. But does that excuse the stupid choices that were made? I would say no. You know, I think you just do a more tasteful job, right? If you're committed to parting out the World Eaters range into across 2 editions, like that's your bed you've made, right? I mean, would it be so bad if, you know, World Eaters, if Khorne Berserkers didn't have any leadership options other than Karn the Betrayer, right? Because that's what it is, right? And if you feel like they must have access to a scouting move from Lord Invocatus, well, then just work it into his rules so if he's on the board, you can pick an extra unit or whatever. Like, there's ways to do it without having these awkward leadership inconsistencies across your... or contradictions. These leadership contradictions when you say it's supposed to work a certain way. I wonder how much of it is just different authors. I wonder how much of that is the case. don't think it's worth working on the skin anymore until we develop the rest of the materials to a similar level. I think we'll just be like working on it forever. Becomes hard to judge, right? You need to kind of evaluate things against the elements which contrast them. At least that's a workflow I found useful. So we'll get some black colors down. We'll get some black and London gray. Pyro says they did the AOS route. Flight of Icarus says, I honestly don't think they're all that committed to keeping the god-devoted legions in their own codices. I think GW is giving them a tiny ranges to leave the door open to rolling them all back into Chaos Space Marines Codex. Look, that's the paradigm I prefer, because I think separating them out, it just kind of cements that special status they have over the other legions, which, yeah, you're god marked Alta Khorne, so you're special in that regard, but the other legions have things going for them that make them special as well. They just don't have that level of rules resolution, right? Like an unprivileged kind of status. Which is why I prefer them all to be in one codex. They're all heretic Astartes at the end of the day. However, it does seem to me like the codexes will be going the AOS route. I think Khorne demons will probably be part of World Eaters, and with the other God-marked legions. Seems like it's trending that way. Feels convenient that the the Traitor Legion codexes haven't come out yet. And Emperor's Children was absent from Chaos Space Marines. And the Demons Codex hasn't come out either. So I imagine all the demons will be parted out, and there probably will be a Demons Codex still. And they'll probably be repeating datasheets. Right, when we saw the World Championships preview and they had that little interview about the Eldar Codex, we saw that, or not we saw, but it was told that the Eldar Codex has rules, or not rules, but the Ynnari, to facilitate Ynnari and Dark Eldar allies, all the Dark Eldar datasheets are in the Eldar Codex for convenience. And I think that sets a precedent for the Chaos Demons, right? You'll have a Chaos Demons Codex for the Demons collectors out there. And then probably the data sheets of those Chaos Demons units in your relevant God-marked Legions book. You know. I could see that being the case, right? This is all just kind of, I guess, like an a priori reasoning kind of thing, or intuition. It's my gut intuition. We'll call it that. Pyro says, don't forget they said each demon is getting a index, not detachment, if I recall correctly. Yeah, if so, like my hope is that, and I don't know how I feel like it's very unlikely, that you'd be able to play your chaos demons, separate from each other, right? Like I'm not a fan of the demon soup or the I must add Bellicor because he's available and I am hurt by not playing with him, right? Because I like my collection of Slaanesh demons. I kind of like them as they are. And I would hope that there's a detachment. You know, if you want to play all Khorne demons, there's a detachment that sets you up for that and compensates for those lacks, right? Of not being able to soup in the other the other demon types. Because there are, like, obvious strengths you're going to be lacking if you don't have Nurgle's Resilience or, you know, Khorne's Ferocity or whatever. But if the paradigm is such that, you know, the Slaanesh Demon's Detachment is in the Emperor's Children's Codex, because it's like Forces of Khorne, or Forces of Slaanesh, like with AOS, then it creates a weird situation, because I imagine that the rules would be such that my all demons army would probably be worse off for not fielding a Demon Prince Fulgrim, right? I think that's what I can imagine it panning out like. I would hope that's not the case, right? You'd want... I mean, I keep coming back to it, but it's like you want to write the rules in such a way that it rewards the hobby efforts of people who've invested into it, right? Yeah, you want to encourage people to soup and mix around, but if you have a detachment where Slaanesh demons can already go in and out of your Emperor's Children army, then it's a moot point, right? You still want a all demons option. And on that same token, you want to be able to support those players who want to collect the, you know, all 4 demons, even before, like, Bellicor, because Bellicor, at least in its current form, is relatively new. You know, if you were a collector of someone who wanted to live out the great game and have all the demons at your disposal, right? You don't want to punish that either. You know, I said I wouldn't work on the skin anymore, but there is an application issue here we can fix. Flight of Icarus says, I know people are nostalgic for Codex Eye of Terror, but I honestly think it'd be really lame if all the Chaos Super Faction is reduced to 2 codexes, essentially just 2 armies. Especially since the Imperium gets so many. Exactly, Icarus. This is a point I made in my World Eaters reaction video, I think, when they were announced or revealed. When they were revealed. Yeah, Chaos feels small, man. Like the Alliance of Chaos, to use the AOS terms, right? Compared to the Imperium, it is so much more fleshed out. I don't want every single chaos release to be some form of traitorous authority that's now, oh, now the Emperor's children are getting flushed out. Exciting for chaos. It's like, man, chaos still feels as large as it was before. Like, sorry, like, yeah, your models and your range in the store, because GW sets the store how they do. Like, yeah, the list is as long as the Imperium, because Death Guard, Thousand Sons, World Leaders are all their own separate entries. But, from a narrative point of view, still small. Still a small little alliance compared to the Imperium, which I think hurts their position as the big bads of the setting, right? You want your Chaos alliance to be fleshed out with things like Dark Mechanicum, and I think a realized Renegade Guard, even if it's just upgrade sprues and rules, you know, I think that's adequate, right? A couple upgrade sprues for the various guards units, Imperial Guard units, and a rule set. I don't think that's bad at all. I think you could have a really cool looking army with some interesting rules. Less design space there, I think, than with something like Dark Mechanicum. Personally, I would love Space Rats. I think Space Skaven could fit right in. Their whole thing is gnawing through dimensions to arrive wherever they want, so why not? You can mix in some Beastmen there too. Because Codex Chaos Space Marine feels like a bit of a island of misfit toys. That's a pretty apt seasonal analogy. I'm pretty proud of that. With all sorts of weird units that don't really belong in that codex. So you can put the rats and the beastmen together. That feels better than beastmen and Chaos Space Marines. They're both furry. So I think that's evidence enough. Don't know if I like that look. Pyro says, also, why not a Chaos-aligned Xeno race? During the Crusade and Horus Heresy, we know there are still around, even till the 42nd millennium. Yeah, there's lots of space. Galaxies are huge, right? So there's certainly space for it. I think Space Skaven could fit in that kind of role. You know, they I mean, I guess you could say they were like mutants, like Beastmen or something, but I think that's less fun. Well, look at that, everybody. We've slipped into overtime yet again. This was pretty fun and I think a pretty productive hobby stream. I got the face in there. I think it's looking pretty good. We'll reevaluate it after a good sleep, but yes, let's see. Let me catch up with chat before we get going. Francois says, supposedly we're to expect new armies. You think it's just Slanesh, or could it be Trader Guard, Space Rats, or something completely unexpected? I think Empress Children is very likely, almost certain, you could say. Well, they've been showing previews of it, so yeah, it's basically confirmed, right? We've seen the updates, those renders, right? Renders of the sculpts, helmets and such. I would hope Dark Mechanicum is also there, like a double Chaos release. For my bias, I like having a broader Chaos Alliance that isn't just demons, knights, and marines. And it never changes for every Chaos release. For every new army, in air quotes, GW adds, the Alliance doesn't get any larger. Which is why I stand by the sentiment, it feels small. Yeah, I would think... I would love Space Rats, personally, but I think that's, like, way less likely than Dark Mechanicum, especially with Vashtor. I would hope Vashtor isn't just lip service to Dark Mechanicum. Flight of Icarus says, I mean, on paper, the God-devoted legions lengthen out the list of Chaos factions, but anyone who's not Death Guard only have, like, 3 to 5 unique kits. Yeah, on paper, the Alliance is larger, but the Alliance is still Heretic Astartes, Chaos Knights, and Chaos Demons. Very small. Pyro says, I thought GW can't do a sci-fi Skaven due to another tabletop wargame already having Space Skaven, and because GW is scared of another chapter house situation, they won't touch it. Oh, maybe. Maybe, Pyro. Fair enough. Yeah, if that's the case, that is what it is. But if they make Dark Mechanicum, that basically opens up the field for passionate conversion people, or kit bashers, let's say. Because that's probably ripe ground for, like, taking some Skaven kits and 3D printed parts and vice versa, and making some weird abominations, but with rats instead of evil machine men. Francois says, I don't think Space Rats can be copyrighted, but Space Skaven can be, and so can particular sculpts. Alright, Dark Mech could be cool. They just show off a Dark Mech thing for Horus Heresy, right? Yeah, that's true. That's true. In Horus Heresy, they're kind of, or was it Legiones Imperialis Horus Heresy miniature, the miniature war game? It might have been for that. Truthfully, I didn't keep tabs on it. Anyways, guys, we're wrapping it up. We'll be back. I'll be back. Tomorrow, another Hobby Hang stream. These are fun, they're productive, and I think word on the street is tomorrow's detachment is Necrons, so yeah, it should, I think at the very least, be a little interesting. Anyways, if you made it to the end of the stream, you guys are the real hobby heroes. Thanks to everyone who commented, chatted, and liked and subscribed, and all that other good stuff. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one.